Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here finally. For those of us on the East Coast, we not only had the election, we also had Sandy. Talk about a double whammy. We were originally supposed to be here on October 31st, but Sandy intervened, and I'd planned to open with some Halloween jokes, but now we have some truly frightening things to talk about. The re-election of our first socialist president, or some say he's not really the first, but anyway, and Obamacare. And we've been hearing some pretty scary opinions lately, not just from liberals, but also from conservatives, that the election means that we now live in a different America, that we've abandoned our belief in economic freedom, and that we're on the way to becoming a European-style welfare state, and that we may even be there already. If you're a believer in free people and free markets, this all sounds very disheartening. But is it true? I'd like to offer some thoughts on that and why our book, Freedom Manifesto, is more relevant now than ever. But first, what does the election mean? You have to admit, things do look pretty grim right now. Our government today spends massively on entitlements. They're now about 60% of government spending, compared to about 30% in 1962. And the election means that not only the economy, but each and every one of us will be affected by the government takeover of health care, known as Obamacare. That really does sound dismal, doesn't it? But Obama's re-election may actually turn out to be more of an anomaly than it appears right now. As we point out in Freedom Manifesto, popular sentiment has in fact been shifting away from post-World War II belief in big government as the default solution. The legacy of FDR, long credited with saving America from the Depression, is being questioned by a growing number of historians. Polls like Gallup and Rasmussen have recently revealed that most Americans today, more than in the past, believe government has become too big and too powerful. And political momentum has also been moving towards economic freedom and less government. That may be easy to forget after last week, but it's true. And we saw the Tea Party movement rise up in response to Obamacare, the 2010 Republican win in the House. In 2012, we now have 30 governorships, the most in 20 years. And then there was Scott Walker's win in Wisconsin, which is a historic victory for smaller government, won in a liberal state despite loud protests and the organizing of extremely powerful government unions. And Walker triumphed because of his skill at making the argument that reducing the cost of government and the power of unions benefits taxpayers, benefits everybody. In fact, union people voted for him. When Mitt Romney succeeded in making a similar argument for less government and more freedom during the debates, and with his pick of Paul Ryan, he went up in the polls. And the problem was that he failed to do this with enough consistency and depth, and his success in the debates came too late. The real truth is that voters respond enthusiastically to candidates who successfully explain the benefits of economic freedom. And we're also seeing, not only that, we're also seeing free market voices in the media that we never had before, new outlets that are gaining influence, not just talk radio and Fox News and Drudge, which started the ball rolling, but a whole new generation of blogs and websites that have sprung up in the last few years, from the Daily Caller to Breitbart to the Blaze, Town Hall, Hot Air. Many of you, I'm sure, read these every day. And they get hundreds of thousands of readers. They're reporting stories that would otherwise have been overlooked by the mainstream liberal media, and they're increasingly shaping the national discourse. And this is something that is truly unique. And people don't really, obviously the media itself doesn't want to comment on this, but this is a very significant trend. And one of the reasons that so many people thought Romney would win, in fact, was because of this growing momentum. I mean, that's something that people have not really remarked upon. The growing momentum that these new voices created, you really felt that something was going on. Indeed, right before the election, some 33 newspapers across the country that had previously supported Obama came out for Romney, including some very big papers, the New York Daily News, Newsday, the Des Moines Register. High-profile Democrats in media and entertainment, you may remember, also came out for Romney. People who never would have previously supported a Republican. In some cases, they spoke out openly despite risks to their careers in certain cases. So last week's disastrous election obscures the fact that nearly half of those who voted for economic freedom and against big government. And those people, all of you, are not going away. Despite hundreds of millions of dollars spent by the Obama campaign in constant attack advertising and a much vaunted social media initiative to get out the vote and a get out the vote ground game, the president won by only about 3%, less than half of his victory margin in 2008. More than one person has pointed out that this fact. And Obama did better among Hispanics who were alienated by the position Romney took on immigration. But in fact, Obama lost 6% of the youth vote and even a small percentage of black voters. He also lost that. And then there's the influence of Sandy. As one CBS and exit poll said that Sandy influenced the decisions of around 40% of voters. So up until the storm, throughout the month of October, Romney was actually leading at one point by about 5 points, according to Gallup. So really the election, had it occurred a week earlier, could have easily gone the other way. Advocates of big government and despairing conservatives are telling us the election means the nation has undergone a seismic shift. That's the so-called narrative right now, and that's why it's probably wrong. And I believe that the real movement is towards a new understanding and appreciation of economic freedom. It just hasn't gone far enough. So now the question becomes, where do we go from here? One thing everyone agrees upon is that believers in free markets need new approaches, new ways of communicating our ideas. And that has been the case long before this election. And it's a major reason why Mitt Romney lost. We're hearing a lot right now about how the campaign failed to reach out to Hispanics and women. And that's true, but my take is a little different. The campaign's messages were aimed almost exclusively at job creators and not at employees. And the GOP convention, for example, spoke mainly to entrepreneurs. In other words, it focused on employers and not the people who work for them. If you were a secretary or a waiter or even a middle manager, you didn't see yourself at that convention, you only saw your boss. And as we know, employees outnumber employers in the electorate. I think it's really much more about that personally than I think it's about anything relating to the ethnicity factor. After losing the first debate, Barack Obama sneered that Mitt Romney was simply a good salesman. In fact, the truth has always been the reverse. Socialists have long been masters at selling the snake oil of bureaucratic government, and they're better than the best Madison Avenue ad writers at coming up with heart-tugging images and emotional rhetoric. Some would call this demagoguery. Whatever it is, we have to start doing it ourselves. We have to do better at reaching people who don't generally read much about economics, who have been taught by schools and the popular culture to believe that corporations and wealth creators are greedy and that paternalistic government knows best. We have to do a better job of explaining to working people, like Reagan did, why economic freedom, choice, and competition mean more opportunities, a higher paycheck, better health care, and a better life. And we have to be more nimble and seize on events that provide the best teachable moments. And unfortunately, I don't think Romney's campaign did that very well. Obamacare, fortunately, however, or unfortunately, should provide plenty of opportunities in the coming 4 years. A good theme I think we should focus on is one that we explore in our book, Choice versus Coercion. Obama brazenly appealed to women during the campaign by persuading them that Romney would take away their contraceptive choice, when the reality, of course, was the opposite. The reality was that his health care law takes away all of our choices. And we make the point in the book that even the most diehard statists want their own personal freedom. And polls show that even liberal New Yorkers, for example, including those who rarely drink sugary sodas, hate Mayor Bloomberg's food fascism and his ban on large soft drinks. I mean, they're all riled up in New York about soft drinks, but meanwhile, they're going to lose all their health care choices. I mean, go figure. They may want other people, statists want other people to play by the rules, but they don't want their own personal choice taken away. And I think that's something that we need to think about when we're formulating our new language in the future. People who value personal freedom will get angry when they see the new restrictions on health care choices that are coming with Obamacare. And that's a major opportunity, and there will be others. So how does all of this relate to Freedom Manifesto? We started writing the book long before the election. and our intent was to address this need for more accessible explanations of the moral virtues of free markets. And most books on this subject, and there are quite a few, focus simply on one side. They focus on why markets are moral. What Freedom Manifesto does, however, is show the Orwellian nature of big government rhetoric by highlighting direct comparisons between bureaucratic government and economic freedom. Each chapter looks at a different reason why free markets are moral and why big government isn't, illuminating a different moral distinction. For example, chapter 1 is FedEx or the post office. Free markets meet people's needs, while big government meets its own needs. And chapter 2 is freedom or big brother, which is about choice versus coercion. And Steve will go into more detail about the rest of the book. Freedom Manifesto draws on a wide range of free market voices, including many from the Heartland Institute. So you should look in the index and you'll see many familiar names. Readers are telling us that it's an entertaining read, and it's great if you're looking for language to buttress your arguments or as a gift for someone who needs enlightenment. And it brings it all together and connects the dots. And people are reading it and they're giving it to their kids and to their friends, and it's the kind of tool we need right now, today more than ever, if we are to win over hearts and minds. Anyway, we hope that you enjoy Freedom Manifesto, and we appreciate the opportunity to talk about it this evening. Groups like Heartland are the reason why the principles of economic freedom will eventually prevail. Thank you.